Dawson Rider Wiki. Dawson Rider here with my review of Lupinranger vs. Patranger Episode 7. Another good episode. I know I sound like a broken record by almost starting every episode review like that, but this has been a really good run so far. Honestly impressed. Like, I wound up really loving Kyuranger, but this has been so consistently good right out the gate. Like, it took until Ryu Commander and Kogama Sky Blue debuted for Kyuranger to really kick into gear, but this has been steady. To start off real quick, I wanted to mention something I kind of forgot, but didn't last week. Like, I mainly just didn't mention it because I just didn't feel like it. But last week, we did get a little tease at the human form of the monster dude that froze everyone's loved ones. He has like a giant unnecessary hat. It's just needless. Like, if we really think about it, there's no need for it. But he was teased, like people were saying when he made his debut. I mean, it really wasn't his debut. I mean, it was kind of the debut of his form, you know, his human form, but like he didn't introduce himself or anything. It was, I would consider it more of a teaser. So I want to talk about that. But anyway, this episode was mainly revolving around Lupin Yellow. Like, in terms of like who it was focused on, it wasn't just Pato or Lupin. You know, it was specifically one Lupin. I think I keep forgetting to do the who won this week type of thing. So I'll probably forget it again at the end, but let's try to not do that. But anyway, I was focused on her, and you know, primarily started on the whole crush that, I forget Nigo's name, so I'm just gonna call him Nigo, has on her, and like him wanting to take her out on a date, and like that becomes important later, because basically the plot is the monster of the week has the ability to, like, it's a kind of a classic trope, honestly, not just for Toku, but I've seen it in all kinds of other, any kind of superhero sci-fi related things where someone eats like the heroes and a bunch of citizens and they live in their stomach. Like the Ninja Storm did one with the popcorn, I remember. So yeah, that's a thing. And Lupin Red and Lupin Blue get stuck in there, so it's up to Lupin Yellow to get them out. And basically, it's kind of her flashback episode. Like, we got it about Blue a couple weeks ago when we sort of learned his motivations and a little bit more about him and his fiance. This time we learned the girl that she was with that got frozen was her friend. Basically, the friend that always looked out for her, sort of like stuck up for her in school, and then they became like, we're gonna become best friends? Yup. Like, what do we do with the bunk beds in here? There's so much more room for activities. And then, so like, we get a little montage of them becoming friends on how she kind of always looked out for her right until she got frozen up. And it's kind of about her lack of confidence and insecurity about how everyone always has to look out for her because, you know, her friend did. And then, of course, her fellow Lupin Rangers did when they just got attacked. And so it's about her sort of, you know, picking herself up by her bootstraps to formulate a plan to rescue her friends. And I like how it also was a bit realistic in terms of it wasn't just her thinking, I have to do it all by myself. I mean, she did. She formulated the plan. But I like that it was, she tricked, essentially, the Patrangers to showing up by inviting Nigo on a date where she knew that the eating monster was going to strike. I think it's funny. Granted, again, I brought this up before. And to be fair, they don't have the information at the same pace, but I like how the Lupin Rangers seem to have a better sense of detectiveness. That's a word. But like, you know, she deduced like where the monster was going to be based on his pattern and based on stuff she picked up, and the Patrangers were at the last scene and like didn't realize that this dude was going to be this next restaurant. Again, they didn't have all the right information. I just find it funny given that one of them are cop detectives and the others are thieves, but I feel like so far we've seen the Lupin Rangers sort of come to conclusions easier, if that makes any sense. But anyway, so she figured out where he's going to be. He's like, boom, he's going to be at this restaurant. I need a cover to go on a date, and also he can bring allies. So basically, she tricked him on the date. Dude shows up. He calls the other Patrangers, and she uses them as a distraction to get the Lupin collection piece. It was really smart. I really liked the way it was done, and she saved them. Also, there was kind of a key moment where the Lupin Rangers sort of helped out a kid inside the stomach from getting stomach acid burned. That sounds really violent, but you know what I mean. And the Patrangers kind of heard about it. That was kind of a nice moment of them realizing, you know, they're not all bad. And also, you know, they weren't total hotheads about it when the Lupin Rangers appeared. Like, at first, like, oh, the Lupins are like, no, they saved us. And then they kind of backed off. But yeah, it was a nice story beat for her. I really liked it. Oh, excuse me. I really like these sort of inside looks we're getting at the Lupin Rangers. I think that's why I like the Lupins a little bit better right now. Again, there's lots of people that are like, oh, staunchly team one or the other. Honestly, I don't feel like there's a fundamental reason to pick one side. It's not like Cap versus Iron Man, where there's like fundamental politics behind it or something. It's just a preference at this point. But I feel like I lean towards the Lupins more just because I like the sort of more in-depth character we're getting on them. Like thus far, in terms of the Patrangers, the only flashback we really got was a bit about the Academy and a little bit about like their personality, rather than like the Lupin Rangers were actually getting a bit of background. So it makes sense since the Lupin Rangers have much more of a personal reason, whereas the Patrangers are just good guy cops in a lot of ways. But I definitely hope in the future we get a little bit more about their backstories rather than just, oh, we're at the Academy because we're good guys. So it's a little bit different the way they're going about it, but I think it's the personal reasoning is like why I like the Lupin Rangers so much. And like this episode was a really good one, not only just learning about Lupin Yellow, but like just for her growing a little bit. I thought it was really well done, and it was neat, and it was smart of her to find a way to get the Lupin collection piece out. Also, I haven't really been caring about the similarities to past items, but this week's was like an absolute, not even trying to hide it, Magishine's lamp, or the Solaris Knight's lamp. That was like a recolor. But yeah, they defeat the monster using a finisher with a cyclone, and then we get the debut of the combined form with the new bike auxiliary, like even though it was more of a Lupin focused episode. But then the teaser at the end of the episode is the Patrangers are again coming to eat, and Tsukasa notices that that Lupin Red sort of has this, you know, body language quirk of grabbing Lupin Yellow's nose affectionately, because he did that right when she rescued them earlier. So she notices it and sort of puts two and two together that they might be the thieves. So I'm kind of surprised it's happening this early. I'm not gonna say anything definitively because for all we know they could change it around next week, but like I didn't want them to drag it out forever, but I wanted it to last a little bit longer. Them not knowing, I mean, they know who the police are because they're like SPD or Lightspeed Rescue, everyone knows who they are. But I wanted it to last just a little bit longer because I think there's good story potential there, both like serious and comedic wise. But we'll see. I mean, it looks like it'll probably be outed next week just based on the episode title and everything. But they could pull, like, look at Smallville, how many times Clark just came up with a stupid excuse for why he did something. Like, oh, that makes sense. So maybe they'll just pull a Smallville. Probably not. But we'll see. I'm just a little surprised that it's happening this soon. I was honestly expecting somewhere between 10 and 15, like right before we get the debut of the 6th Ranger, but we'll see. But overall, this was a solid episode. Really good focus on Lupin Yellow, and like a neat, like, sort of cliffhanger or lead into next week. I would give it an 8.5. Anyway, that's about it. Until next time, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. It's Dawson Ryder, signing out.